All right, let's move to the wide receivers here, and we've briefly touched on some of these already. Mike Evans re-signed on a 2-year deal for $41 million with the Bucs. Michael Pittman gets the extension he was looking for, 3 years, $70 million deal with the Colts. T. Higgins has been franchise tagged, reportedly requested a trade. Not a lot of action going on there around T. Higgins. Calvin Ridley gets a monster deal from the Titans. 4 years, $92 million for the 29-year-old Calvin Ridley. Deontay Johnson being traded to the Panthers. Gabe Davis signed a 3-year deal with Jacksonville. Mike Williams has been released by the Chargers, so he will hit free agency. And the action didn't stop there. Darnell Mooney, as we mentioned, a 3-year deal for $39 million for the Falcons. Kendrick Bourne goes back to New England on a 3-year deal. Demarcus Robinson, another one we've talked about, guys. We like that he's going back to the Rams on a 1-year deal. Looked really good there last year. Noah Brown stays with the Texans on a 1-year, $4 million deal. Let's start with the big one and one of the more recent ones in Calvin Ridley here, Jay. He's somebody that ends up going to the Titans on a massive deal. Nick Foles is the Titans offensive coordinator. He was Jacksonville's pass game coordinator, so there is some familiarity here for a team that desperately needed a number one wide receiver.
Yeah, feels like a real Madden franchise mode off-season from the Titans. Let's just get Tony Pollard and Calvin Ridley, and we already got DeAndre Hopkins, the offensive line will be better, as you mentioned, but I don't really understand the deal. Like, why don't you just give this deal to A.J. Brown a couple of years ago, which is the bizarre element. I do think that Ridley, and we talked about this last week, that I think there is reason to believe.
It's a different general manager, though.
With
the A.J.
but
Brown
it's still,
thing. Right.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't look great.
Feels like an ownership thing.
Yeah. So
yes.
I do think there is reason to believe that Ridley can be better than he was last year because, now look, it's a quarterback downgrade from Lawrence to Levis, but Levis is on an upward trajectory. Lawrence was banged up all last season. Ridley just hadn't played football in a long time as well, but overall, I don't really understand the deal. I would guess that he's probably going to have greater target share in Tennessee just because it's really just two guys there as opposed to dealing with Christian Kirk and Evan Engram, but it's a very strange fit.
See, I think it's negligible. I think it's a slight fantasy downgrade for.
Well, he's got a worse quarterback, which is the problem.
He's going to a worse quarterback. I would argue just a worse offense that's not going to be in scoring position nearly as much. And I would argue that he has as much target competition as he had in Jacksonville, but with lower pass attempts to go around, right? I mean, so you've still got Treylon Burks there, DeAndre Hopkins. You got my guy Chigakonkwo. Pollard and Tajay Spears are nothing in the passing game as well. They'll take, a handful of targets a game. And so, yes, now Ridley getting this kind of money, he's their number one. They're going to want to, funnel targets to him. But again, so it's really kind of like how good is Will Levis going to be and how well can they protect Will Levis, right? Again, we've talked about this. This is the worst offensive line in football last year. And so if they don't upgrade that line in a significant way and Levis is just constantly under siege, it's the same, Nick Foles, who's their, as you mentioned, their offensive coordinator. He was the passing game coordinator in Jacksonville. So it's going to be a lot of the same playbook, which helps Ridley. But I would argue I was more excited about Calvin Ridley on Jacksonville last year than I am about Calvin Ridley on Tennessee this year.
Yep, no, I think that makes sense. I think you will have potentially less efficiency, less touchdown equity. They will be throwing, it's a tough one because they're a worse team than Jacksonville, so presumably they'll be in throw scripts more often, but They may not want to let Levis drop back as much as the Jags will let Trevor Lawrence drop back. DeAndre Hopkins is 32 years old coming into the season, so he could be on the down. The thing is though, I feel like he's just going to be making contested catches till he's 35. I don't think he's super dependent on his speed.
Not at all.
Again, obviously a very different player, but to me, he's like Larry Fitzgerald. Just whatever. Just get it somewhere near him, and he's coming down with it. He's not. His game isn't built on separation.
Yep.
No, age as well.
Yep.
So
overall, I think it makes Ridley a higher variance player. I think he's got a much lower floor now, but he might have a higher ceiling just because Levis has more upside and he is more locked in as the number one guy, I think.
Yeah, well, we did see if you want to make a pro case for him is right. Follow the money. Second year for Ridley, back to football and back in the same system. And, Levis has a cannon for an arm. And so who are they throwing deep to? I mean, they're going to throw more deep to Ridley than, and so maybe they take some more deep shots and everything like that. And you have, it's Callahan as the head coach coming from Cincinnati. And so is there some, Jamar Chase type, plays in there, like that they, again, he's not Jamar Chase, but could they see him in that role, if you will, so to speak.
Just doesn't feel like it's going to work out.
No, I'm trying to argue that. Like I just said, I feel worse about it. I think he's a low-end wide receiver 3. I'm probably going to have very few shares of Calvin Ridley this year. But if you want to make the pro Calvin Ridley case for it, that's the argument you're trying to make. I'm just, Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.